Today we are here to address a recurring question that arises with increasing accessibility and tracking of digital data. The question is, are traditional brand track surveys still relevant when the digital data already tracks consumer behavior? To find an answer to this question, we perform meta-analysis of FMCG brands using unsupervised structural learning models to reveal the links between the brand mind measures, market performance, and digital behavior. Our analysis suggests that it's not about choosing between them, but about choosing all of them. And this actually leads to creating brand health strategies which are based on a holistic view rather than reading these metrics in isolation. We are all marketers, researchers in this room who love data, measurement, but the fact is that while we may choose to measure our data in silos, have our company structures operating in silos, but the consumers do not experience the brands in silos. We might be doing brand tracks to understand what people feel and think about the brand. We might be tracking penetration to know how many people buy the brand, and we might be looking at search behavior to know how many people are searching or want to know more about my brand. But if we read these metrics in isolation, then reading fragmented metrics will only lead to fragmented strategies. Therefore, there is a need for unified structure which links all these metrics for holistic brand growth. Because brand perception alone, without affecting behavior and market results, is just potential. So now coming to our meta-analysis, our research objective was to understand how shifts in brands' mind measures, which come from brand track surveys, correlate with brands' in-market performance metrics like penetration and digital behavior metrics such as search for brand. Now let's understand the scope of our analysis. We have looked at brands across FMCG categories, and the data is over the period of October 21 all the way to March 24. In the model, we have used same time period across all the measures. Also, the data for all the measures is based on change over time rather than absolutes. This helps to bring all the measures from different data sources and scales to the same level. Also, our model is built to explain how brand metrics have changed over time, aligning it closely with the focus of tracking studies, which, as you know, are all about monitoring shifts and trends across different time points. Now let's talk about the approach now. Our model uses unsupervised learning, meaning it's entirely based on data without any researcher bias or predefined assumptions. But why is this important? Because it allows us to uncover genuine relationships between the variables, purely based on how they interact in the data. This method, known as unsupervised structural learning, is one of the purest ways to explore the connections, making the structure more reliable and insightful. Now, as you can see in this image, this is the network path we have generated using unsupervised structural learning model. Here, the penetration is the in-market measure of brand performance. Then search represents the digital data for consumer behavior. And the rest of the metrics are the mind measures which come from brand track surveys. For example, top of mind, it is a strong indicator of brand salience. Consideration indicates the strength of the brand in respondents' decision set. Affinity measures how respondents feel about the brand. Meet needs measures how well each brand delivers the main things respondents want from the category. Dynamism measures how much each brand is setting trend. Then finally, uniqueness measures how different the brand seems to other brands of the category. So now coming to our learnings, let's focus on the blue highlighted area. It shows that web search for a brand is a measure of digital data of consumer behavior. It is linked to the mind measure of uniqueness. It means that when a brand does something unique or different, it leads to increase in web search for the brand. Next, we can see here that penetration is linked to mind measure of meeting needs. That is, if the brand is consistently meeting consumer needs, then it leads to increase in penetration. As you can see here, there is a relation between two mind measures. So the brand's ability to increasingly meet consumer needs also leads to a higher brand consideration. Moving on, As highlighted here, this analysis reinforces that if the brand has done something unique and different, it also should be meaningful, which is measured in the mind measure of meeting needs, for it to drive penetration. As you can see here, brand's affinity and dynamism are byproducts of brand being meaningful and different. Here, we have quantified the impact of mind measures on brands' market performance and digital behavior metrics. As you can see here, penetration is mainly driven by meeting needs followed by uniqueness. Now, how to read the table is basically if there is a 10% increase in mind measure of meeting needs, it leads to a 1% increase in penetration. Similarly, as seen previously, search is driven by uniqueness. Also, there is relation between different mind measures. For example, consideration is mainly driven by top-of-mind salience, followed by meeting needs and uniqueness. Meeting needs and uniqueness also lead to increase in affinity of the brand. What we have done here is that we have also looked at the model with the data from personal care category, and as you can see, the impact of mind measures on brands in-market performance and digital behavior metrics is even more. Here, a 10% increase in mind measure of uniqueness leads to a 4.1% increase in search. But what after this? So what we are sharing here are the recommended actions for brand growth through an integrated read of metrics. For example, when there is high penetration, high search, and high brand health, this is the ideal state. The brand is strong, widely bought, and people are actively engaging with it. The focus here is to keep the momentum going, stay relevant, and keep delivering. When there is high penetration, low search, and high brand health, here the brand is well liked and bought, but not actively searched. That tells us that we need to spark more digital curiosity, make the brand feel more dynamic, and invest in SEO and content that highlights innovation. When the scenario is low penetration, high search, and high brand health, in this case, people are interested and searching for the brand, but not buying it as much. That's a clear sign of conversion barriers. Maybe it's pricing, availability, or unclear value. So we need to identify and fix those. When the penetration is low, search is low, and brand health is high, that means the brand has strong equity, but it's not reaching enough people, and its curiosity is also low. So we need to drive penetration and build curiosity through maybe trial driving campaigns and messaging that highlight what makes the brand unique. When there is high penetration, high search, and low brand health, as you can see here, that means the brand is being bought, searched, but it's not connecting emotionally. So the task here is to build deeper meaning through storytelling and emotional branding. Now we have another scenario where there is high penetration, low search, and low brand health. This one's a bit risky because the brand is being bought, but it's not loved or searched. It could become just a commodity. So we need to refresh the brand identity, bring in emotional engagement, and clear differentiation. When there is low penetration, high search, and low brand health, that means people are curious, but they are not buying, and the brand isn't resonating emotionally. So we need to clarify the proposition, make sure the messaging aligns with what consumers expect and what the product delivers. Now coming to the last scenario where there is low penetration, low search, and low brand health, low across the board. So the recommendation here is a full reboot, improve the product fit, and relaunch with clear and compelling positioning. That's all from our side. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of questions. Yes. This is an interesting one. A couple of years between your analysis, your years of analysis, were the COVID years, where we have seen everything shift and change, preferences change, and so on. How did your model account for that?
Yeah, so actually our analysis is based on 21 to 24, so we've particularly avoided the COVID period. So we've taken it, yeah, so it's all post-COVID, so that we avoid for all those aberrations.
Okay. The question is, next one is about unsupervised learning, the model that you use. So when you use unsupervised learning, how do you deal with the correlations that do not amount to causation?
Right, so see, there are two ways to look at it. One is that, you can just establish that the two variables are related to each other and kind of avoid the causality. That's one way to look at it, because many people might say that, today in search, sometimes it comes on the phone and that is when you actually land up, buying it, whereas being the reverse. So again, in unsupervised learning, you can allow for, two-way relationships as well as not really stick to causality. In our case, because the way the variables were defined, and we knew that, when you're talking about mind measure, like uniqueness and brand doing something new and different, we expected to, lead to the behavioral aspect of search. So in our case, causality was kind of clear. That's the reason we retained the arrow, but they're right. In unsupervised, you can also allow for a two-way relationship. That's very much true, yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.